is happening to us? Does anyone stand back and really look at the world today? Why do politicians uniformly, in just about every country, impose measures that only seem to weaken their own people? Where does this leave the millions of innocent families being slowly bled dry of their livelihood? Where has our freedom gone? Has the world gone crazy? One reason why we are here is the lack of critical thinking, where today a false idea can be coded in fear to pass as plausible enough and not be challenged. Did you buy for a minute the lie being promoted that freedom and safety are exclusive opposites and cannot coexist? Of course they can. Have we already forgotten feeling safe, happy, and free all at the same time? That used to be the normal and common way we lived. The only thing that really changed is our perception. Another problem that helped to get us here is people being constantly brainwashed into a groupthink mentality, which is used to justify flagrant disregard for personal human rights. It's a deceptive word game like a cheap magic trick, switching between words and ideas. It claims to prioritize the so-called many while actually destroying the freedom of individuals who make up the many. Does anyone see that what they call a public good is the same as the individual well-being of every single one of us? So when we diminish our personal rights, we also diminish everyone else's rights, thus actually reducing the same overall social welfare they claim to protect. Before, when we saw each other as independent individuals, we respected each other more. It was a time of more freedom and choice because we each had integrity and carried personal responsibility, minding our own business while having mutual respect for the other hardworking, independent grown adults. Now grown-ups seem less mature, less concerned about principles, honor, and dignity. They just go along to get along. Those in charge, pushing the current nanny state measures, know that much better, more empowering alternatives exist, but they won't grow a spine and take a risk for any true positive change. They themselves would rather be told what to do and continue to play along, enjoying the precious little power grab. So what now? My only goal here is to help restore what we have lost so we don't lose everything else. We forgot our original place and relevance in this world. Without such solid foundation, we will be quickly played by the next magician that comes along. So first, we have to get grounded. It's all quite simple, really, as truth often is. If you are like me, you recognize God as your creator. This is not a matter of any particular religion, but of where humans stand in their relationship to everything else. This acknowledgement became an accepted fact when it was written that we are all created equal and supplied by the Creator with unalienable rights. Unalienable means present from birth and which cannot be taken or given away, ever. Please notice that there are no middlemen between us and the Creator. This is a very important piece of information to remember. So next, let us observe the relationship between God, the Creator, and humans, the creation. There's a mutual love between them for sure, but the Creator always governs the creation. It can never be the other way around. Now that we established our place and relationship to God, let's look into people's social relationships, which are just as simple. We will apply the same science of reasoning to these relationships. In most countries, people create a constitution. Since the constitution is the creation in this relationship, it cannot and does not govern its creators, the people. It instead governs that which itself creates. The constitution creates the structure, specific powers, and limits for national administration. So in fact, the constitution is the government and the top law of the land. Its creation, the federal political institution with all its departments and agencies, must always and only work under the limited authority granted granted by the Constitution. Now, please notice here that people, as individual human beings, are not mentioned in this relationship because individuals came before and are above both the Constitution and the political structure just described. Most constitutions recognize this by stating that individual human rights must always be respected. Here, it is also important to clarify that individual human rights always come before and above any so-called group rights, because all groups came after and from the individual. Next, let's talk about what the political administration creates. They can only create laws under the very narrow limits defined within the Constitution. These laws may not infringe on the Constitution, on the people, or on God, because they all came before and are above such laws. And finally, the federal politicians were given authority to create treaties or agreements between countries, but these treaties can only be made under the authority of already established federal laws and the Constitution. This is crucially urgent to know because of what you see happening globally today. No treaty can infringe on laws, Constitution, people, or God because they all came before and are above such treaties. It is also vital to understand that the same logic applies to smaller areas of administration, such as state, county, city, or town managements, meaning that none of these legal structures created by people can infringe upon the individual rights of people within these jurisdictions. The rules of authority just described are constant and cannot be temporarily suspended, diminished, or revised in times of peace, great difficulty, emergency, or even a war. Any changes to any creation mentioned here can only happen at the level above it and be done by its creator. So, for example, if federal politicians no longer act in pursuance of the Constitution by entering and enforcing a law under a treaty that is contrary to the Constitution, they have overstepped the boundaries of the Constitution to which they swore allegiance. If state politicians pretend to suspend the state constitution and then issue decrees that violate individual human rights, they have not only acted against their state constitutions, but also against the federal constitution and against the people of these states who created the political functions to begin with. Any emergency measures should never interfere with individual rights, because individual rights are outside the authority of treaties, laws, and constitutions. So what is the answer to the problem at hand? Since the problem is less freedom, the answer must be to restore such freedom. So now the question is how to do that. First, don't ask others for protection because you might not like the protection methods being chosen for you and applied to you. Provide for your own protection. Second, don't become resigned. That is the wildest dream, that you just give up, capitulate, and go in the corner, go sit in the corner. Yeah, they would love that. Don't become resigned, but also never be reactionary or revolutionary, because today these moves are all programmed, provoked, planned and prepared with a scripted response. Remember, we are being intimidated by those who only destroy what you hope to restore. So these anticipated outbursts will be used to destroy any moral high ground and public backing we might have previously had. We must remain the good guys through all this and not engage in violence or destruction. They may even initiate false rebellion, specifically to root out and obstruct real resistance. The marketing of a revolution to the left and a civil war to the right is being widely promoted. If this still doesn't trigger enough people, the media could exaggerate public unrest to such overblown proportions to justify using national or international police action on innocent people. The goal of such plan would be to institute a powerful world governing body over all sovereign nations. They would love that. And third, only moral actions will keep you in the right with God and other people. For example, one way to restore freedom is choosing a non-violent path of action that leads to more independence from those who limit freedom. That is why it's most important to personally provide for yourself and loved ones. Any reliance on sources which may shut down or be rationed in a time of need will not secure your freedom. Likewise, any outside obligation that remains in effect may be used to restrict one's freedom, so it pays to repay and close any outstanding loans and commitments. And finally, the only lasting solution is one where people understand their position in this world and their relationships within it. Only then actions that destroy freedom will be impossible to pass off as safety and security to the public. So please, help spread this message of freedom.